I was raised in a strict Catholic home, ironically. My mother clutched her rosary like a lifeline and whispered prayers into the walls like they could hear her. But me? I rebelled young. The crucifix on our wall became a joke to me. I wanted power, not piety. I wanted to feel something beyond the shallow rituals of Sunday Mass. At 17, I left home and fell in with a group that promised more control, more knowledge, more truth. They called themselves seekers, but we weren't seeking God. We were chasing the dark. What started as curiosity spiraled fast. First, it was old grimoires, candles, chants in forgotten tongues. Then came the blood rites. Animals at first, but always there was this presence. I felt it, watching, smiling, feeding off our blasphemy. By the time I turned 30, I was leading the ceremonies myself. They called me High Priest Azaros, and we believed the devil had chosen me. I wore robes, stitched with sigils, chanted before moonlit altars, mocked the crucifix while holding a dagger slick with sacrifice. I thought I had seen it all. I thought Satan favored me. We held a ceremony deep in the woods, far from city lights. It was the solstice, a night of supposed thinning between realms. We were attempting a ritual of binding, something so vile it made even my seasoned acolytes tremble. We marked the circle with salt and ash, offered blood my own this time, and chanted until our voices bled raw. And that's when something changed. The air snapped. It wasn't the presence I was used to. This wasn't the devil we thought we were entertaining. The fire in the center of our circle blew out in an instant, though no wind stirred. A pressure crushed the air around me, and I could no longer breathe. My chest collapsed in on itself. I fell back. The others screamed, but their voices felt like echoes underwater. I remember choking, clutching my chest, the world around me spinning. Then came the silence, and the darkness swallowed me whole. I died there, in the middle of the ritual. But death was only the beginning. I didn't realize I had died. Not at first. There was no tunnel of light, no angels, no peaceful passing. Just darkness thick, pulsing, alive. It wasn't absence. It was presence. A presence that hated me. I was floating, or falling. It was hard to tell. The air or whatever surrounded me reeked of rot, betrayal, and burned blood. The same scent that lingered after our most unholy rites. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. I tried to move, but there was no body, no limbs, just awareness, and the sense that something was waiting for me. Then came the voices. Not human. Not demonic in the way movies show. These were ancient, broken things. They mocked me in languages I didn't know but still understood in my bones. They laughed at me, called me priest, called me fool. I saw them then. Figures twisted, hollow, writhing in shadows. They had no eyes, yet they saw me. No mouths, but they whispered in agony. These weren't demons. These were the damned. Souls like me. Some had no faces, just screaming holes. Others looked like distorted versions of humans I once knew. And I did know some. I recognized a woman I'd sacrificed in my early days, her face twisted in betrayal, her eyes begging me for something I couldn't give. That's when the ground beneath me split open, though there was no real ground. Only the sensation of falling through reality. I was pulled deeper. The screams intensified, like a chorus of regret. Fire didn't burn here like it does in the world. It peeled away the soul. I felt every lie I had ever spoken, every ritual I'd led, every time I mocked the name of Jesus, come back to stab into my core. Not just memories, judgments. And then I landed. It wasn't fire. It wasn't pitchforks. It was worse. A throne stood in the center of the void, made from bones and twisted iron, and sitting on it was the one I thought I had served. But this creature, this mockery of majesty, was not pleased to see me. He looked through me. No reward, no welcome, faithful servant, only hunger and rage. "You were never mine," it hissed. "You were used." That's when I knew I'd been a pawn. A stupid, arrogant puppet in a game I never understood. And hell? Hell is knowing you were never important, even to the devil you worshipped. He didn't look like the devil from the paintings. No red skin, no horns, no smirk. He was beautiful, and that terrified me more than anything. His form kept shifting one moment, a man with a perfect, symmetrical face, smiling like a lover. The next, a rotting corpse with hollow eyes and bleeding gums. He wore a crown of something alive. Serpents? Worms? I don't know. But it pulsed with hatred, as if it fed off my terror. He leaned forward from his throne of bones, and with one finger touched the air. Suddenly, a mirror of smoke formed between us, and in it I saw me. Not the priest they bowed to, not the man in dark robes, but the boy, the child I used to be. Alone, angry, searching for meaning in all the wrong places. The voice echoed not just in the air, but inside me. "You abandoned your father for me, but I never claimed you. I only borrowed you, for ruin." Then he showed me every sin I had ever committed, not just the obvious ones, the rituals, the blood, the mockery. No, the worst ones were the hidden ones. The thoughts I never admitted, the laughter I held in when I watched someone cry, the jealousy I masked with charm, the manipulation I wielded like a scalpel. One by one, each moment replayed, and each time I felt a whiplash through what was left of my soul. There was no defense, no trial, only truth. And the demons, they circled me now, chanting in tongues that felt like broken glass in my ears. They didn't attack. They fed on my shame, my regret, my realization. The more I understood how deeply I had been deceived by Satan, by myself, the more they laughed. My titles, my rituals, my fake power, it was all trash to them. "You believed you held dominion over us," one of them sneered, slithering past me. "You were nothing more than a clown in a stolen costume." And then the worst happened. The silence. All of hell seemed to hold its breath. The accuser stood. The demons backed away, and he stepped toward me, his eyes black like oil-pierced mine. "Now," he whispered, "you belong to the one you mocked the most." I didn't understand, until I heard it. A voice, faint, gentle, radiant. And from above that suffocating darkness, light began to spill in. It started as the softest hum, so faint. I thought it was a trick. Nothing in hell should sound like that. It was warmth. Not heat that scorches, but warmth that comforts. And the darkness? It hated it. The moment that light flickered into view, the demons around me screeched, not in rage and fear. I looked upper, what felt like opened. The light grew stronger, like a tear had opened in the fabric of that infernal realm. The accuser snarled, stepping back into the shadows, shielding his eyes like a coward. "He is not yours," he hissed toward the light. "He belongs to me. He chose me." But the light didn't argue. It simply was. Pure. Undeniable. And then I heard the name. Whispered, not shouted. But every syllable shook hell itself. Jesus. I wanted to turn away. I wanted to hide. Because in that moment, I knew. I had mocked that name. I had desecrated it. I had spoken it in rituals not with reverence, but with venom. I had laughed when others cried out to him, and now I was crying. Jesus, I whispered. The first time I'd said it not with sarcasm, but with desperation. Please, please, don't leave me here. There was no answer, just the warmth. But it wrapped around me like arms. The demons screamed louder. They couldn't touch me now. They clawed at the air between us, but it was like an invisible wall was keeping them back. I dropped to whatever counted as my knees in that place, sobbing. Not because I was afraid, though I was, but because I felt something I had never truly felt. Not in all the power I chased, not in the dark spirits I entertained, not in the rituals, the blood, or the black candles. I felt love, a kind of love that saw all I had done and didn't flinch. That stood there anyway, waiting, watching, offering, not demanding anything, just inviting. The light grew stronger, and for a moment I saw a hand reaching down through the void, scarred, glowing, real. And I cried out, "Save me, Jesus! I was wrong! I was so wrong!" Then everything broke. The ground, the throne, the voices. Hell itself split apart, and I was pulled upward not gently, but violently, as if every force in that place was fighting to hold on to me. But it couldn't, because a stronger hand had claimed me. And just like that I left hell. Not because I deserved it, but because the one I mocked answered anyway. When I opened my eyes again, I wasn't back in the forest. I wasn't even in my body. I was standing somehow, standing in a place that looked like it was made of light. But it wasn't the kind of light that blinds you. It was knowing. Everything here knew me. Every grain of this place pulsed with memory, truth, mercy, and justice. I couldn't lie here. Not to others. Not to myself. And before me stood a figure I couldn't even fully look at. Not because he was terrifying, but because he was so holy, so pure, so beautiful, that I was ashamed to exist in front of him. Jesus, not the image I used to laugh at, not the crucifix I once turned upside down on my altar. This was the risen Lord fire in his eyes, scars in his hands, and love in his presence that broke me more than hell ever did. I fell to my knees again. I don't deserve this, I choked. I don't deserve to even see you. He didn't argue. He didn't flatter. He just looked at me, through me, into every secret I thought I had buried, and he showed me my life again. But unlike the mocking visions in hell, this was different. This wasn't for torment. This was truth. Sharp, yes, but redemptive, like a surgeon's scalpel cutting to save. I saw every moment where I turned away from him, every chance I had, every person he sent to speak light into my darkness. My mother, praying in her bedroom. The girl on the subway who once said, "Jesus loves you," before I spat at her feet. The dreams I had where I woke up sweating and heard whispers of warnings. He had never abandoned me, not once. I had slammed the door shut, but still, he knocked. "What do you want from me?" I whispered. I gave myself to the enemy. I wore his name. I mocked yours. He stepped closer, and with a voice that carried galaxies inside it, he said, "I want your heart, not your performance, not your penance, just your heart, even now, especially now." Tears I didn't know I could still cry poured out of me. I reached out, trembling. "Then take it. Please, take it. Make it yours." He did. With a single touch, warmth surged through my soul. The chains I didn't realize I still wore shattered. The darkness that clung to me melted. I felt clean. I felt new. Not perfect, but no longer lost. He looked at me one more time and said, "You will return, not to power, but to truth. Go, tell them what you saw." And with that, the light exploded around me, pulling me back through time, through space, through the veil of death itself. I gasped like a drowning man breaking the surface. My chest heaved violently, and I tasted blood and soil in my mouth. I was lying on the forest floor right where the ritual had taken place. But the circle was gone, the candles melted. The others scattered. Some were unconscious. One was convulsing, and another had vanished entirely. But I wasn't thinking about them. I was alive. The cold air burned in my lungs. My heart pounded like it was trying to break free from my chest. And in my mind, his face, his voice, his touch. I looked at my hands bloodied from earlier, still marked with the signs of the ritual. But they trembled now. Not with power, with awe, with fear, with hope. I whispered the name again. Jesus. It didn't sound blasphemous anymore. It sounded like safety, like home. One of the others, Anna, crawled toward me, her face pale. "What? What happened?" she whispered. Her voice shook. "You died, Azaros. You stopped breathing. We thought..." She looked around. "Something went wrong. Something was here. What did you see?" I opened my mouth, but the words wouldn't come. How could I even begin to explain it? How do you tell someone that you saw hell, that you stood before the throne of evil and then before the throne of grace, that you were dragged from damnation by the very God you mocked? "I saw him," I finally said. "I saw Jesus." The look on her face of terror and disbelief. "Are you joking?" she whispered. "You, the high priest. I'm not him anymore." She laughed bitterly. "You've lost your mind." "No," I said, standing slowly, weak but clear. For the first time, I found it, and I walked away from the circle, from the forest, from everything I had built in darkness. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew who I was going toward. The others didn't follow. They weren't ready. I didn't expect them to be. But me? I had been pulled out of hell by love. And once you've felt that kind of mercy, you can't go back. I didn't need robes anymore. I needed a cross. I didn't need candles or chants. I needed the word. And I didn't need demons whispering secrets. I needed the voice that said, "I want your heart." So I began walking, step by step, into the light. The days that followed were the strangest of my life. I wasn't possessed, but I was haunted by mercy. I couldn't sleep without seeing his face. I couldn't close my eyes without remembering the screams from hell. The contrast was unbearable, but it was also transforming me. I tried to disappear. I cut contact with the coven. I left the city, burned every book, every robe, every tool of darkness I had once held sacred. But the guilt that lingered like smoke on my skin. Every town I passed, I kept thinking, how many lives did I ruin? How many souls did I help lead into that place? I wasn't trying to find a church, but one found me. I walked past it a dozen times before I had the courage to enter. A small stone Catholic chapel on the edge of a forgotten road. I stepped inside one Sunday morning, just as the priest raised the host. "This is my body, given up for you." I broke. Right there in the last pew, I fell to my knees and sobbed. I didn't even care if people stared. I wasn't crying from shame anymore. I was crying because I could cry again, because I felt again. because I had been in the presence of the true God, and he wanted me. After Mass, the priest found me outside, still trembling. I couldn't tell him everything. Not yet. I just said, I was in a very dark place. I shouldn't be alive. He placed his hand gently on my shoulder and said, "None of us deserve to be. That's why grace is grace." He gave me a worn Bible, told me to start with the Gospel of John. I opened it that night in a tiny rented room, shaking, still unsure. And the first line shattered me again. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. I knew that word now. I had met him. I had cursed him, and he had answered me with love. I wasn't looking for religion. I was searching for reality, and I found it in the scars of the one I used to mock. The rituals, the candles, the Latin chants, they had given me noise. But Jesus, he gave me silence that healed, a stillness I had never known. I wasn't just converted. I was rescued, pulled from the jaws of eternal death by the only one who could. And every breath since then, it's been borrowed, a gift I will never deserve. If you're hearing this, then listen closely, because I don't have time for poetry or games. I died. I stood in hell. I saw the devil. And I met Jesus. That's not metaphor. That's not some drug-induced vision or trauma response. That's reality. I was a satanic priest. I led people into darkness, thinking I had power, thinking I had control. But when the veil was pulled back, I saw what waited on the other side, and it wasn't glory. It was torment. Satan doesn't reward his followers. He uses them. You don't gain freedom, you lose your soul. You become blind, numb, convinced you're enlightened while you're being dragged to the pit. I was there. I felt it. The screams, the despair, the truth that you were never loved by the one you served, only devoured. And the worst part? You think you chose it, but in reality, it chose you. The moment you turned your back on the light. I was one breath away from being lost forever. And if Jesus hadn't intervened, if he hadn't reached down in mercy to a man who deserved nothing but damnation, I'd still be there. No second chance, no return, just eternal separation from love, light, and truth. People ask me now, why would Jesus save someone like you? I still don't have an answer. Except this, he's real, he's merciful, and he loves you more than you can possibly understand. Even now, even in your worst filth, he doesn't wait for you to clean yourself up. He comes for you in the dirt, in the sin, in the blasphemy, and says, "Give me your heart." So here I am, no longer Azaros, no longer the high priest of lies. Just a man redeemed, a man forgiven, a man who will spend the rest of his life warning others not to make the same mistake. If you're dabbling in the occult, stop. If you're mocking Jesus, repent. If you think hell is some wild party for rebels, you've bought a lie. Hell is real. Jesus is Lord. And eternity is one breath away. Don't wait for death to find out. Fall on your knees today and call on his name. I did, and he answered.